we are back. It is the K&L Sports Huddle. I'm Cage Kiplinger. This is my partner Logan Hubert, and this is episode 6. We've got a lot in store for you today. We came off a really great weekend of golf with the 89th Masters coming through in a huge way and an historic way, and one that'll be remembered near the top of the all-time Masters highlights. We've got some baseball recaps for you. We've got NBA playoff preview. So get you guys ready for the play-in games this week. But we got a lot. How you feeling, man?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend of golf. Definitely, I would probably most entertaining Masters for sure that I've seen the last few years. It's debatable if it's as good as 2019 with Tiger coming back and winning it. I would say
Right.
I'd say they're both on tier 1A for different reasons, but just
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Growing up, I didn't watch a ton of golf. I think it's just as you get older, you start to appreciate the sport a little more. So I would say, as far as ones that I've witnessed on television, this is the number one in my book. It was riveting golf from Thursday to Sunday. I was locked in the whole way, and what Rory did, becoming just the sixth golfer all time to complete the Grand Slam. That's winning the Masters, PGA Championship, U.S. Open, and the Open Championship, aka the British Open, as we call it over here. But an incredible feat, and the roller coaster ride to get here for him. He's just come up short so many times in this position, and he didn't make it easy on himself this week.
He did not, and it was fitting. For me, that was the absolute best way for him to overcome this obstacle in his career. Not just he's been seeking this Masters title, obviously, to complete the Grand Slam, but not just that, he's been seeking a major title just to get back
For a
on track
while.
to how elite we thought he was going to be. He's still obviously a really elite golfer, but people thought he'd be one of the best of all time. But he's had a lengthy drought without any major success, but finally pulled through. It wasn't easy for sure. We thought it was going to be. I feel like there were probably a lot of people who took a nap after about the ninth hole or so, but and then woke up an hour later and saw all the chaos that had happened. But I there were times where I thought he was going to choke it away, and then there was times where I thought, yeah, it's looking like he's going to choke it away, but he just keeps coming back, and the rest of the field just isn't doing enough to make him sweat too much. Obviously, it was tied by the 16th hole. It was there was a 3-way tie, and obviously there was a playoff at the end. But just fantastic golf. His putting was definitely a big issue, and that chip he had on 13 was just, I don't even know. I was definitely one of the worst golf shots of the entire tournament because he by that point he was playing fantastic. He bogeyed 11, but everyone was bogeying 11 at that point.
Yeah.
So just not hitting in the water was an accomplishment in itself. So 13, who he had been bowled all week with, on Friday he had that masterful eagle.
Yep.
He decided with a big lead, he decided to play it safe. So his second shot, he left it short of the creek, and which I thought was absolutely the right move. And then he just hit a terrible wedge shot, and it bounced right into the creek. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know. You don't aim for the hole there in that case with that lead and with that hole location close to the race creek. You just don't do that. And sure enough, that started the downward trajectory that led to the great finish we had.
Yeah, let's talk about that finish. So he comes to the 18. He has a chance to put this thing away. All he needs is a par, and he puts it into the right side bunker. Gets it close, but I think he definitely wanted to get closer. He was about like 5 or 6 feet away from the hole at that point.
I thought he was fine in the bunker with the front hole location. I thought
all weekend they kept referencing back to 2022 when he hit that bunker shot. Hold out.
Yeah. Well, Morikawa. There was that time where McIlroy was the one who hit that lengthy putt, and Morikawa right after one was the one who hit the chip in from the out of the sand. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, all he had to do at that point was just put it close. And I was a little disappointed in his because I mean his putting hadn't been anything special all day. Um, that was the one weak link mainly. And yeah, when he left it short, I was like, yeah, there's like a 50-50 chance he misses this. And sure enough, he did. But yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and so then when we get to a playoff hole, a sudden death hole. This is a little bit different than when he had the playoff with JJ Spawn at the Players, where they took an aggregate score of a couple of holes. This was it. You know, they were going to replay that 18th, and I just kept thinking, how is he going to recover from this? He had a 5-shot lead at one point in this final round, to give all that up, and then to have to play a hole again that he just bogeyed on, and the time leading up to him waiting for Rose to come in the golf cart there, he had to have been reeling for him to be able to gather himself. He played a perfect hole. Like, let's just say it what it is. It was a perfect hole. He drives it right down the middle of the fairway on his first shot, and then to follow up Justin Rose approach shot, as he put it farther than Rose, but the spin he had on that ball was crazy, and he got within like 4 feet. You knew it was pretty much over. Rose's putt was a lot more difficult from that length. And then we got the amazing finish with Jim Nantz on the call, and the rest is history. You know, just become putting himself in the name and the likes of, you know, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and all the greats. That was an awesome moment to see that happen for him.
So yeah, he had just driven 18 perfectly, and if you watch the replay of both shots at 18, they were very similar, just right of that bunker, and great length and all that. But yeah, the iron shot was different this time, obviously, and I mean Justin Rose hit an incredible shot too there.
Yeah.
Even it just took an unlucky roll. Even the commentators are like, "Oh yeah, how unfortunate it was that it took that roll," because I mean he almost sunk that. He
Yeah.
was just a couple feet away from sinking that. So yeah, Rory cut a break there, and difficult putt for Rose, especially. I mean he'd been warming up all that time, but I mean it'd been an hour or so since he'd done any putting, so
Yeah.
it would have been. I mean, it was a difficult putt, anyways, but given that circumstance, it was tough. But yeah, just an incredible day of golf. So I would say his driving was mostly perfect. There were a couple times he was in the trees, so that's why I was thinking on that 18th tee box, the second time in the playoff, that he was going to be fine because the driving wasn't an issue. And anytime he had hit it in the trees, I mean, let's think hole 7, I believe. Hole 7 was incredible.
7.
I mean, 15, that was just an unbelievable
the
shot.
Hook shot around the trees.
The hook shot around the trees.
That was amazing.
And 17 was another crazy shot he had to birdie that hole. That even when he drove it a little off course, off the fairway, he always recovered with his iron play. So yeah, it was all just going to come down to the putting, and yeah, his amazing approach shot just made the putting not an issue when you're that close.
Yeah, and for the one who ends up runner-up in this year's Masters, Justin Rose, he had an incredible weekend. You know, he led after the first round. He led after the second round. He actually, after the first round, he tied Jack Nicklaus with 4 first-round leads at the Masters, finishing with a 65. He was 7 under after the first round. 5th time leading after first round, most by anyone without a green jacket. And, you know, he's not going to be looked at in the same light as a Rory in terms of, oh, he can't win a Masters. He had an incredible weekend. You know, third round wasn't quite up to par. He drops down to 6 under, but for him to be able to climb back in that final round, that was very impressive. I think he had 10 birdies in his final round. It was incredible. And what I loved was the fact that we got to see a huge leaderboard stacked full of notable names, and that's what you get when you get LIV and PGA together. So that was really cool. You had the likes of Scheffler, Patrick Reed, Rory, DeChambeau, Justin, all the top guys. And so one guy that it was pretty cool to see that him and Rory were set up for this epic final round. It was almost like set up like a Mike Tyson fight. Bryson DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy in the final pairing was as much as we could ever dream for this Masters.
Yeah, and if you would have told me going into the final round with McIlroy up 2 that it's going to come down to a playoff, I would assume that it was going to be with DeChambeau.
Right.
And if not DeChambeau, then maybe Scheffler. Like maybe Scheffler is going to make a big comeback. But Justin Rose just. I mean, everyone counted him out, basically. No one really felt like he was going to win. Like, you looked at the odds after Friday, he was still like the 4th favorite to win.
Right.
And, I mean, he was paired with Bryson in the 3rd day in the final pairing. Yeah, he obviously wasn't going to sustain his success. But I just felt he was more loose on Sunday than he had been on Saturday. And, yeah, he just flew under the radar. Yeah, just epic comeback for him. And, yeah, it's. I guess it was fitting that the two that came down to the end were two guys who have. You could argue the two guys who've been consistently closest to win the Masters.
Yeah,
and with Rory, I mean, obviously Rose has had more more leader at the top of the leaderboards than McIlroy.
And Rose was in a playoff back in 2017 against Sergio. Yeah.
So you would have. Either one, you would have felt great if they would have won, but you would have felt worse if McIlroy lost. Yeah. So as for the leaderboard, it was guys. Some of the predictable guys were there. Scheffler, I thought he showed that he's still probably world number 1. I mean, you could tell he wasn't playing his best golf, but you look at the leaderboard and he finished outright 4th. So I mean,
it's on for his standards. It might not be what he'd hoped for, but it shows that he's always going to be there. And it felt kind of reminiscent to the Players, where he kind of just hung around, but never quite right up there in the top couple spots. But yeah, a great weekend for him.
Mm-hmm. And not just him. I mean, I'm looking at Masters champions. I mean, like you said, Patrick Reed, he finished outright 3rd. Yeah. He had that horrible bogey on 13, double bogey. No, it was a bogey. Yeah, he had a birdie putt and he ended up bogeying.
Yeah.
If he would have birdied that, he would have been, assuming obviously so many other factors, but if he would have played the exact same the rest of the way, he would have been in that playoff with with Rose and McIlroy. But you see this a lot, how the guys who are just familiar with the course, who've had success, or towards the top. I mean, shout out Zach Johnson. I mean, he was top 10 finish. Bubba Watson, top 15. John Rahm, who got off to a horrible start, he ended up top 15. So, guys who are used to this course tend to have a lot of success. And, as for Bryson's downfall, it was all his iron play. I mean, I thought his driver was like Bryson's driver. I mean, he drove amazingly all day, even despite how bad he played. But his iron play was just atrocious.
I mean, back-to-back bogeys for Bryson, and then the birdie by Rory kind of flipped the leaderboard, because I got nervous there right at the beginning of the final round. that score changed hands a couple times within those first 5 or 6 holes, and it was nuts.
And I think that on hole 2, when Rory saved his par, because you could argue he did not have any good shots the entire time yet, because obviously he double bogeyed the first hole, and then on the par 5 on hole 2, he hit it in the fairway bunker again, and he laid up, and then his chip into the green was horrendous too. Like, he didn't get any roll on it, but his birdie putt got close enough where he can make that par putt, and I think that's I think that's what got him
Yeah.
going. Because after that, he played fantastic until hole 13. So, but yeah, Bryson just kind of his iron play fell apart, and I think in turn that his putting was, I would say, average for Bryson standards on the day. But when you have difficulty making the green or getting close to the hole on
Yeah.
your approach shots, it's not
Yeah.
going to work at Augusta.
And some of the talk on the Thursday and Friday rounds was the lack of coverage for Bryson DeChambeau. I watched every round, and ESPN basically had the coverage for Thursday and Friday. You had to watch on ESPN Plus. They had featured groups. They had Amen Corner, holes 4, 5, and 6, and Bryson was never featured on a featured group. The only chance you had to catch him was on one of those holes that the Amen Corner of 4, 5, and 6. Even Lil Wayne tweeted out the lack of coverage for Bryson. Feel like there's probably something to do with Liv when it comes to ESPN's coverage of that. The fact that he's not a part of the PGA.
I would say just CBS too. Well, Nick Faldo, you could just tell in his commentary that he wasn't the biggest Bryson fan, which
Probably not.
kind of funny. I like Bryson, but
Yeah,
but
he's the one guy from Liv that moves the needle. And if none of the other guys, were able to play in these other tournaments, Bryson would be the one guy you
well,
want.
and I wouldn't even say it's just Liv. Well, it's his freedom now that he's with Liv, where he can create the YouTube content and be more engaged.
Which
I don't know why. Yeah, he gets hated on now. Yeah, a few years ago, yeah, he was definitely
whoever
hateable.
his PR man is politicians should be taken.
I did like him, even whenever a lot of people didn't like him.
I did too.
I always liked the kind of the villainous golf guy.
Right.
That's why I was kind of rooting for Patrick Reed to play spoiler. I don't know about win, but I was rooting for him to play spoiler. He came close, but yeah, he's helped grow the game of golf with all this YouTube content and all that. So there shouldn't be that obvious bias against him.
Right.
I feel like in the commentary.
And
but,
I just think we need to come to an agreement between Liv and the PGA. Whatever, egos are battling it out upstairs, we need those players back. And in any regards, Liv is probably going to be over with in the next few years because these guys' contracts are going to be up. They're going to have the money that they've made on the Live Tour, and they're probably going to want back. They're going to want to be back because we've heard it from guys like Bryson and Brooks that they want to be back in the limelight. They kind of miss the big stage.
Yeah, to credit Liv, they do have a big following outside the U.S., like specifically in the East Asia. So it's not like here in America, there's not that big of a following. I know they do events here, and I got to be interested to go to one just to see.
There's going to be one in Indianapolis.
I saw that. Sure. Yeah, but yeah, you got to see. You were almost dead right on Rahm.
Almost
earlier, but he played a lot better on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, he was world number one, and he was the third highest odds to win, and
yeah,
he was never really truly in contention. But that's not to say there were. Patrick Reed's a Live guy. He was there, and yeah. So I think golf would benefit a lot if those guys just came together again.
Yeah, because it was so nice seeing the leaderboard the way it was. It just made it that much more exciting. Shouts out to the guy that finally made a cut, Max Homa, with a gritty performance. He's one of the hardest workers on the tour. The last made cut that he had was on July 19th, 2024. That was at the Open Championship last year. So it's been a journey to get back, and what a time to do it at the Masters.
Yeah, a lot of people, if you just looked up most popular Masters bets, a lot of people would say
I had miscut for him.
I was not going to jump on that just because he had a lot of success last year at Augusta, and I always have that thought in the back of my mind. If you've had success here in the past, that's that could easily be more beneficial to you than others in the future at Augusta. And he didn't just make the cut. He what did he finish? He finished tied for 12th. Yeah, so
right, so top 20. Like
top 20.
that is
so,
impressive.
yeah,
And
so
that's got to be a huge confidence booster going forward for him.
and I would say if this does boost his confidence and he like starts playing a lot better on these other events, I mean, he could be a potential favorite, not the favorite, but a potential bet to win it next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of rooting for him after his kind of meltdowns here lately with all the
Right.
miscuts. But yeah, good for Max Homa.
Some of the notable miscuts that we had were guys like Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley, the Ryder Cup captain, Tony Finau, Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, and Cam Smith from the Live Tour. Mickelson I was kind of bullish on him to have another good run. That didn't quite happen. Adam Scott, former champion, and then a couple of our old guys, Fred Couples, and then in his last Masters, Bernard Langer. But he made it close. He got real close.
He had a putt. I watched that. Yeah, he had a putt to make the cut, but it wasn't meant to be. Yeah, the only guy I have a comment on because I said that I had in my top 20 was Cam Smith, and I don't regret making that bet because, I mean, like I said last week, he's been in the top 10 for the last 5 Masters, but that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. How maybe it might be more beneficial if Live and PGA come together. It's good to see a guy like Cam Smith and even Brooks Koepka, for that matter, back towards the top of the leaderboard consistently at these big majors.
Yeah. But yeah, just another Masters in the books. I had to watch everything after play had commenced, all the interviews for Rory. I'm so happy for him. You know, he's been at this for a long time. He's taken a lot of shit for not being able to complete this. And for him to put him in the likes of Nicklaus and Woods, and, you know, at his press conference, he started off, he said, what are we going to talk about next year? And I kind of wanted to, you know, look ahead to next year. I mean, what's the storyline into next year? Is it shifted to Bryson now?
Yeah. I don't know. He's absolutely right. Something big's going to happen over the next year for another story like that to happen. Yeah, I mean, Bryson's so big in the golf world right now. I could see something related to him. Maybe PGA Live get it done in the next year, and that's a big story going in.
That would be the dream, right? And we'd get all the tournaments, the players, the Pebble Beach. They'd all come back for those. And, you know, that wraps it up for the Masters. It was just a great tournament, and I enjoyed just seeing the course.
Yeah. One final thing is that overall grade for CBS, I would give them an A-. For a lot of people are giving him an A+. I'm giving him an A-. They were absolutely fantastic after Rory made that final putt and just letting it all in. Like it was amazing. Just feel the emotions, and I thought for the most part they did a good job. The reason I don't give them an A+ is for a couple of reasons. Is I don't know what they would have done if Rory would have lost, and I almost would have felt bad for Justin Rose because nobody would have cared at all. Like, and I'm just talking.
Right.
I'm talking about leading up. I mean, Rory obviously deserved a lot of the coverage, but like on that playoff, on the 18th, and then the playoff, like they're bringing up Jim Nantz bringing up all these sad stories about Rory and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I don't know if we need to hear this. And like, I mean, if Justin Rose won this is also somewhat of a big story. I mean, a guy who's had as many been at the top of the leaderboard as much as Jack Nicklaus up to the first day, who's never won it, who had been in a playoff before, never won it. I mean, sure.
At one point in his career, he had 21 straight missed cuts.
Yeah,
like the comeback.
And a guy who was once world number one at one point too.
Right.
So yeah, obviously Rory deserved a lot of the coverage because I mean Grand Slams is nothing to scoff at. But I was thinking, yeah, can we maybe go from like 90 to 10 Rory coverage to like maybe 70 to 30? Like
right.
And the other thing is, I think I kind of wish they would have shown a little more of guys like Reed, and I don't mind being the minority, but I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, did you know Sung M finished fifth?
I
I'm
actually did not. No.
the only shot they ever showed of him was that crazy eagle he made, almost double eagle he made on 13. But I mean, they never showed him. I mean, I'm just thinking you don't always have to show Rory and Bryson walking down the fairway every time. We can cut to other guys too. I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah, for the most part, they always do a fantastic job with it, and I'll assume they'll be an A+ next year. Whenever there's no, I don't think there's gonna be any more biases toward
Right.
anybody. So
Right. And just knowing that I got to watch history be made is just the best part of it. I think it's, this and Woods's 2019 Masters, probably the two of the best that I've seen. But that'll wrap it up, man. They go to
Harbortown.
Harbor Town, yeah, Hilton Head Island for the RBC Heritage. This is a signature event, so there is a $20 million purse for this. So most of the top PGA guys should be there. Remains to be seen if Rory will follow up. Usually, Masters Championship champions do not do well at the RBC outside of Scheffler last
Oh
year.
yeah, I was gonna say except Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, he is the exception. Most of the time, he is. But
You
yeah,
could argue. You could argue that may be his most impressive victory
it
that
probably.
year because I mean, coming off that Masters, yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, yeah, and just looking back at Rory, Tiger never really gave us this. Tiger was so robotic, so he was a machine on the golf course. He never took too many chances. He really didn't have a lot of terrible, terrible shots that we see from Rory. I mean, Rory is an up and down roller coaster that is honestly more relatable in some ways. And I think it was just really cool seeing him finally reach the mountaintop. So yeah, so
Absolutely.
an awesome weekend, a memorable Masters, and it'll be hard to follow up next year. We'll be back with more PGA Tour coverage when the PGA Championship next month, as the second major of the four. We'll see if he can follow it up at Quail Hollow. But let's move on to the NBA. We got playoff basketball, but before that, we had a pretty cool game that happened last week where Luka and the Los Angeles Lakers came back to Dallas. They made the shirts for his return. All the fans had him on, and this is one of those weird. Probably the only time in history, in NBA history, that a former player got cheered this much by their former fans, because this situation has never happened before. A player who got traded, a player who didn't want to leave, and kind of got the rug swept, out from under him in the middle of the night, and then they doubled down and called him fat, and he comes back, and when Nico Harrison in the crowd drops 45 in a Laker victory, he had 31 in the first half. It was electric. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I watched the. I wasn't. I started watching that towards the end of the second quarter, and I saw that he already was approaching 30. I was like, yeah. I called he was going to score 50 in that game, and
Yeah,
he almost did. And
you got it close.
I got close, but yeah, I wasn't too surprised when I saw how much he'd already put up. And I heard many "Fire Nico" chants running through the TV, and I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I would say maybe LeBron in his first stint with the Lakers. I mean, that was his second time after leaving Cleveland because he'd already brought them a title. That would probably been the closest, but
Yeah.
LeBron left on his own accord. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So this was this was completely new territory for any NBA game I've ever watched, and I enjoyed it. That was one of the best NBA games all year that I've watched.
Yeah.
Maybe the best, just for that moment.
Yeah, and I actually saw, before the game started, as they were announcing the lineups, and they showed a tribute video for Luka. The Dallas organization put that together. It got me almost teary eyed, and you could tell it was really affecting Luka. And in that moment, you're like, he didn't want to leave. This was not his choice at all, and I could see this trade being very reminiscent to, you have to go way back when the Red Sox shipped Babe Ruth to the Yankees for some cash. Like, it's crazy. And when you look at the Lakers, they're going to be a tough out in this playoff. And for Luka to do what he did that night, if you've ever been that emotional, to be able to go out there and drop 45 after having all those feelings, that was incredible. That was incredible. So yeah, as we look towards the playoffs, I'd be, if I were a Western Conference team, I'd be pretty scared. Another news came out just today. Another one bites the dust in the desert as the Suns fire Mike Budenholzer after just 1 year. It's the second straight coach to be fired after 1 year, after Frank Vogel. They didn't obviously have a very good season. They missed the playoffs, and with the roster that they had, that's pretty much unacceptable. And Mike Budenholzer was supposed to be the guy. He's a championship-winning coach in Milwaukee, so this was supposed to be a really good move. It didn't work out that way, and I just don't think there's a fix in Phoenix, and they've already said that they are going to be searching for options for Kevin Durant to trade him out.
So not just back-to-back 1-year seasons. I mean, it's their third coach in 3 years. You got Monty Williams out the door, who led them to the title game, the title finals. Frank Vogel led them to the postseason, but they got swept. And then, Mike Budenholzer going to get it done with a 36-46 record, I believe. With a team that has Durant and Booker, that's just not going to get it done. However, I've said this before, I just don't know why a team would want Kevin Durant at this point. It was like, people are saying, he's gotten all these coaches fired. You could argue he had a big reason why all these coaches got fired. And people are saying, "Oh, imagine Durant with the Knicks. Imagine Durant with the New Thunder, or the Rockets." Why would any of those teams want him? They're all fairly young teams, who are all towards the top of their conference, who all have aspirations to hopefully make the title. Why would they add a team who just did that? The Phoenix Suns made the title with Booker and a bunch of young guys, and obviously Chris Paul, but they got rid of him after that. And then they had Durant, and then they just go downhill. It's just, something is off with Durant and the organizations he's with, and the teammates. I don't know what's going on, but like you said though, I don't know what they're going to do from here, and I don't know what coach is going to want this job. They don't have their own first round pick until, I believe, 2032. They're going to get rid of Durant. And hopefully Beal, even though his contract's one of the worst in the NBA. I almost think they need to shop Devin Booker. They say they're not going to, but I think they just have to, because they have no hope for the future. Like, Devin Booker is a great, great player, but he's not going to lead him by himself.
No,
he's anything.
Not a one.
He's not a one. So you gotta trade him to get something, get draft picks, get something to get your fan base a little more energized, because they have none of their young players right now are. I'd say all their ceilings are at best role players. Like, they got no future stars in the waiting that you can see. So it's bad in the desert right now, and they're going to have to make a lot of moves this offseason for there to be any light at the end of the tunnel here soon.
Yeah, not looking good for the Suns. But we have playoff teams, and those are the ones we need to be talking about. So the season ended on Sunday. We've got our Eastern Western Conference set, the first round matchups, the play-in tournament before that. Just kind of looking at the way the seedings played out, what are your first thoughts, your first kind of reactions to what we have laid out before us as we head into one of the lengthier postseasons?
Yeah. I think, well, this is like most NBA postseasons. You look at these first round matchups and you see right away, okay, this is going to be a horrible series to watch. And then they see some, they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be absolutely electric. Um, ones that I just really looking forward to out in the West, I think Lakers Timberwolves is going to be really good. I know it's the Lakers, and they always have all the spotlight on them, but
Right.
the Timberwolves. I don't know if is a good matchup for the Lakers because with Gobert and Randall, I don't know who on the Lakers is going to
Be able to match up there.
be able to match up
Yeah.
with that. I don't think Jackson Hayes can stop them both, let alone one. So he's it's and with Anthony Edwards there, I mean, he's always going to be a scoring threat. I do have the Lakers winning this series 4-3. I think it will go to 7 games, but it's going to be an up and down roller coaster. I'm really looking forward to that one. And then out east, I think Bucks Pacers. I think that might be the only good series in the first round, but I think it will be really good. This was the first round series last year. Pacers won, I believe, 4-2. But the asterisk on that was that there was no Giannis and no Dame in that series. Actually, Dame played a little bit, but
A little,
very little. And this year, it doesn't look like Damian Lillard's going to be back with his thrombosis.
Right.
He may be back if they win the series in the next series, but Giannis will be there. And the Pacers didn't do very well against the Bucks this year. Granted, Damian Lillard played in all 4 of those games, but the Pacers only went 1-3 against the Bucks. So I also think this series is going to go 7 games. I am a Pacers fan, but I just think the Bucks are going to be more motivated, and I think Giannis is going to be determined more than ever to be like, hey, remember I won a title just a couple of years ago. I'm still him, and I think the Bucks are going to take this series.
Yeah. A couple of the things that stood out to me were, I'm kind of worried about the Knicks. They've had a lot of trouble beating good teams. Their record is mainly them beating up on the lower half of the league. And I don't think the Pistons are just an easy out. They are young, but it could spell some trouble for a Knicks team that just hasn't been quite up to standards of what we assumed they would be coming off, an incredible season last year and an electric playoffs that saw them get so close to an Eastern Conference Finals, but injuries hurt them there. And another team coached by Tom Thibodeau, we don't know how 100% this team is coming into the playoffs. And the addition of Cat, while he does give you a lot of points, we've said it before, he is a bit of a defensive liability. I just don't know. I don't love the Knicks' chances here, but I say if they get through one round, a series set up with them in Boston would be incredible, which is something that we didn't get last year. And then out west, my question to you is, which LA team is scarier, the Clippers or the Lakers? Because I think this year, more than most years, the Clippers have a better shot. I think Harden's done a good job with them, and if Kawhi gets going, I think it could be all right for him.
It's Harden in the playoffs. That's the thing right there. You just don't know.
They're set up with the Nuggets in the first round, though.
Yeah, I think they're going to take care of the Nuggets fairly easily. I actually have them winning that 4-1. That's mostly because of the Nuggets, and I just think they're just a mess right now, unfortunately, for them. I do think the way they finished the year, I do think the Clippers are slightly more of a threat than the Lakers, and it's just mostly because of the Lakers' lack of a true big. Like that could be the thorn in their side. Yeah, I mean, Kawhi's proven that he can rise up in the playoffs. Now, it has been a while, but I do think they're a slightly bigger threat than the Lakers. But it is the Clippers, and the Clippers have historically always underperformed, especially when compared to the Lakers. They're crosstown rivals. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to predict that, but I don't know. The Clippers will have a tougher second round matchup, I believe, though. They're obviously going to. I think the Thunder are going to make easy work of the. I assume the Grizzlies. But another thing out west is that I have the Warriors taking care of the Rockets. 4 games to
Ooh,
2.
upset.
I just the Rockets and Pistons are kind of similar in my boat. You made great points about the Pistons and the Knicks. I actually have the Knicks sweeping that series just because I feel like a lot of times you see these feel good stories and like it is great for the Pistons to finally be back to relevancy back in the postseason,
Yeah.
but I just don't see this ending well for them and the Knicks for the Pistons. But I do have the Knicks getting easily and beaten by the Celtics in the next round. But as for the Rockets, similar boat. They way overexceeded expectations. Good for them. They got a great young nucleus, and if they keep it together and don't add any disruptions, like I was hinting at a few minutes earlier, they could be a major threat for a few years to come. Having said that, though, I think just the Jimmy Butler presence on the Warriors is playoff Jimmy. We cannot forget about playoff Jimmy. Pair that with Steph. I think, they're going to take care of the Rockets, and then the NBA is going to get what they dreamed of, a Lakers Warriors semifinals. And if there will be bias, because I always think of where will the NBA put their bias potentially in these playoffs. I mean, they're going to push hard probably for a Lakers Warriors semifinals. So I'm looking at that as a potential matchup. But I don't know who you have, but I still have the Thunder coming out of the West. I mean, 68-14 is no joke. And I know there's been elite teams in the past who are great regular season teams, but just come playoff time, there's just other teams that are just a different breed, other players that are a different breed. But the way they've been playing all year and the way they've not just, I mean, they've been doing it against everybody. I mean, it's one thing to go like the Knicks, where you win a lot of games, but you're not beating the good teams. I mean, Thunder have been beating the good teams as well. So, I have OKC coming out of the West, and then out of the East, I actually have the Bucks making the Eastern Conference Finals. I have the Bucks taking out the Cavs. That's probably my biggest upset. Because I feel like the Cavs probably would be favored, but I just think Giannis is going to go on a run. But I think the Celtics. I have the Celtics sweeping the Magic, beating the Knicks 4-1, and then beating the Bucks 4-1. I just think the Celtics have been in cruise control all year, but in reality, you look at their lineup from top down. It's incredibly elite.
Um, but yeah, when I look at the Celtics, I think they're coming into this probably a lot healthier than last year. We know the issues with the Porzingis. There should be a complete roster coming into the playoff here, and I think that is bad news for the Eastern Conference. So, I actually I went for it. I went for it in the West. I want to see Lakers Celtics, and I'll be damned if I get that. But I just think there's something. I talked about it before in another sport with golf and Rory, and it just feeling like destiny that he was going to get it. And I feel the same way about this Laker team with Luka. I just think this is the year of Luka where he just you know tells all the haters where to shove it, and he's making it all the way. If I were any of these teams, I wouldn't want, even in the Western Conference, to be facing Luka, because the tandem of him and LeBron on LA, it's tough. I mean, how are you going to put your best defender on one and leave the other on an island? And that's what a lot of these teams are going to have to contend with. They're going to have to scheme up something really nice for the Lakers when they have to be matched up with them. And I think we could see one of the best rivalries in all of sports, Lakers versus Celtics in the final series. Give me who you got. You got winning it all here.
So, of course, this is the finals. I got to make it go 7 games, even if it might not. But it's the finals. You got to make it exciting. But I do have the Celtics over the Thunder. 4 games, 2-3.
Awesome. I still got the Celtics though. winning it all. Even though it's a season of destiny for Luka, it's to get him back there and get this series. And I see at that point, Boston's going to be too much. I say 6 games. Boston in
Well,
6.
and you might be thinking this too. I just have it happening earlier. I think the Lakers will take care of the Timberwolves in 7, and I think, but they're going to be in also a dogfight with the Warriors. I do think they'll come out of that, but I think they're just going to be
Exhausted from those 2 bouts.
from those 2 battles, and I think the Thunder you're just going to be too much to handle at that point. You might have that same thinking, but you just might think it might come a little later in the finals because, the Celtics are the last team you want to face if you've gone through all these 7-game series, just battling your way to get. The Celtics are the last team you want to face with all the depth they have.
Yeah, and the Celtics are going to, like, as you've kind of noted, there's going to be a bit of an easy road, and there's not going to be too many high-pressure stakes in the Eastern Conference, whereas the Lakers are going to probably have to go through a gauntlet, the teams that they're going to face, and that's why I see Boston coming out again, getting our first back-to-back champion since the Warriors in 17 and 18. It's been a while. It's been an era of NBA basketball where it's been a different champion every single season, and different matchups, I believe, too. I don't think we've ever had the same 2 teams in the finals and the same team make it to the finals in back-to-back years. So,
which is a sigh of relief after that 4 years of Cavs Warriors, if you're being honest.
Hey, that catapulted the league. That drove the ratings for a while. So, but love it if we get again Lakers Warriors in that second round. But we'll be looking at all the action. We do have play-in games coming up. What do you see from these play-in teams? I know I was going to ask you who you think the most dangerous play-in team is, but that's clearly the Warriors. So what do you see coming out of these play-in games?
So out west, I think the Warriors will take care of the Grizzlies. If this was, it's just crazy. 2 or 3 months ago, I mean, the Grizzlies would be the easy favorites here because they were playing so well. They had a top 5 offense and defense, but they've just kind of slowly deteriorated. And then obviously they fired their coach. So the 9-10, the Kings Mavericks. I mean, the Kings are like the definition of a play-in team. They have all these good players, no great players with Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeRozan. I think Anthony Davis is going to be determined to win that game. I think he still has some motivation to him. Like the Lakers traded me. I mean, they thought I was expendable. I'm still an elite player. So I think the Mavericks will win that. But but they're not. There's so many injuries on that team that I think the Grizzlies will be the 8 seed, but they have no chance against the Thunder. Out east, none of those teams have a chance. Like it's I feel like it's the same teams every year. It's always the Heat are always there, and a lot of times it's been inexcusable. This year makes more sense with the Butler drama and they lost Butler.
Right.
But I mean the Hawks are always there. I remember they made the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago. How forgettable that was. But I feel the Magic should be a lot better than they are. Injuries have kind of stalled their season. And assuming they beat the Hawks, they're gonna have to match up with Boston. If I was in that game, I'd try to lose that game because I would much rather face Cleveland than Boston.
Right.
Honest, in the first
better
round.
shot.
So it might be interesting to watch just for that reason. But I don't think there'll be too much to take from this play-in games other than the only notable story would be if the Warriors got upset, then we might start to get worried about them.
Well, and that could potentially set up a Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and Warriors if they lost their first game and were to win their next one. So, maybe hoping for a loss in the first one, but I'd rather them just be nestled into the playoff bracket with a first play-in win. But in the spirit of the playoff bracket, and we're going to see a lot of great teams in this tournament, and a lot of them are going to lose because we only got one winner. And in the spirit of that, I thought we would have a cool little game here that we would pick our 5 best teams to not win the championship. So I'll let you go first. Give me your 5 and kind of explain why you chose those, and like give me a little explanation of what they were all about.
Okay. So this is now in no particular order, and I'm going to assume the first one I name you're going to have on there too. I feel like everybody who's ever watched the NBA is going to have this on there too. When
This
you
is a
win,
lock.
when you win 73 games, which is the NBA record, and you don't win the title, you're obviously you could probably claim first place in this category. And of course, I'm talking about the 2015 2016 Golden State Warriors. Um, yeah, they came close. I mean, I remember all the memes of them blowing a 3-1 lead because, I mean, just having a 3-1 lead, you're one game away from making history. And but I mean, if you think about it, that team was kind of shaky in the playoffs too. I mean, they had to come back from down 3-1 to the Thunder. Granted, that Thunder team was really good with Durant and Westbrook,
Yeah.
but and it took Klay Thompson going nuclear in Game 6 to win that series. But yeah, that Game 7 was historic. I was pulling for the Cavs that game just because I wanted it for LeBron,
Yeah.
and but like I was looking over that game, I completely forgotten Draymond Green had 32 points, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists in that Game 7. I mean, that's like one of the most iconic Game 7 performances of all time.
Right.
I mean, that's a near 32-point triple double. He went 11 for 15 from the field. I think it also came down to Steph. Yeah, Steph had one of his worst playoff games, least efficient playoff games. He had some bad turnovers, bad shots at the end of that. And if we would have made those, yeah, we would be talking about one of the best teams of all time. But unfortunately, they're on my list. Another team I put on there. So I'm just going to go in order from most recent to farthest back, and then I'll
Perfect.
give you an honorable mention I had at the end. So after that is you might have this one. I don't know. I have the famous 2002 Sacramento Kings, who most notably associated with rigged officiating.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good team. I mean, it's not just they had a chance to go to the finals. I mean, they were a really good team. They were 61-21 that year. They had a 2-1 lead over, I mean, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Then they had a 3-2 lead. In fact, they could have taken a 3-1 lead, but the Lakers had a game winner in game 4 to tie it up. But yeah, that Game 6, they had plenty of chances to win that. It shouldn't have come down to bad officiating. Unfortunately, it did. But yeah, unfortunately, they've made my list, and then the Lakers went on to obviously three-peat. Next, I don't. You probably don't have this one on the list, and I'm kind of a homer for this, but I do think they deserve to be on here. The '98 Indiana Pacers. So they went 58-24, which is great. Not amazing by any means. Second in the East, obviously, to Chicago Bulls. But the main reason I put them on here is because they're the only team that took the Michael Jordan late 90s Bulls teams to a 7-game series. Yeah, from the 96, 97, 98, the Bulls never played in a 7-game series. The Jazz never gave them a 7-game series. Those were all 6 games. But the Pacers gave them a 7-game series, and the Pacers even had the lead with 6 minutes to go in that final game. Of course, those are the Reggie Miller, Rick Smits, Chris Mullin was on that team, Jalen Rose. A good team. I mean, they beat the Knicks 4-1 in the divisional round, and they beat who else did they? They beat the Cavs 3-1 in that opening round too. So yeah, they were beating their opponents pretty easily in the playoffs. Probably would have beaten. I think they would have beaten the Jazz had they won.
So
Unfortunately, they just, like so many other teams in the '90s, ran into the Michael Jordan-led Chicago Bulls. Okay, and my last two are way back. So the 1973 Celtics. I believe they. I need to verify this. They probably may have had the most wins without a championship before the Warriors, because they went 68-14, which is actually the best regular season the Celtics have ever had.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. They lost 4-3 in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Knicks. A big part of that was that John Havlicek got hurt. Obviously, he was their main scorer. So, yeah, unfortunately for them, you could call it a choke because they probably still should have won that series. But when your best player goes down, it's just you go down in the history books as one of the best, but not the greatest.
Yeah.
And lastly, I put the 1969 Los Angeles Lakers. That was the first year they acquired Wilt. You could argue that was maybe the first super team that was ever assembled because they already had Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. Then they add Wilt to this, and it was just an absolute perfect chance to finally end the Celtics' run at dominance. And yeah, they lost in Game 7 to the Celtics. They were up 3-2 in the series, and yeah, they just couldn't get it done. Unfortunate, because I mean, you look back, Jerry West uh, actually won Finals MVP, I believe, that series, the
Yeah.
only Finals MVP to ever be on a losing team. So I feel like that fact alone also helps elevate the Lakers to my top 5. But lastly, honorable mention, and maybe they should be in the top 5, but the 2018 Houston Rockets. They went 65-17 that year, and they're built to beat the KD and Steph Warriors. They were up 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then infamously Chris Paul got hurt, and then in Game 7 they missed 27 consecutive threes and finished 7 for 44. So I mean, the Chris Paul injury definitely contributed to
Yeah.
that, but you could also define that as a classic choke or just voodoo magic happening, because I don't know how an NBA team can miss 27 straight threes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great list. I definitely considered the 98 Pacers and the 69 Lakers. Ultimately, I just, with the Wilt, I'm pretty sure in that final game, he chose to sat out the last play, and they had an opportunity to win.
There was some controversy, like he was in foul trouble or something, and yeah, he didn't want to back in. So yeah.
And that was a pretty big story.
Imagine if imagine
year.
if social media was
Oh
around back
boy,
then.
they'd have come down even harder than they already did on Wilt back then.
Yeah.
And then the 98 Pacers. Obviously, the team in 2000 made it to the finals, but believe that 98 team would have won if it not for the Michael Jordan Bulls teams. So let me start with my top one. Obviously, we had the same one at the top, 2016 Warriors. I mean, 73-9. And not only that, but Luke Walton had to coach them as interim head coach from October 27th to January 20th, while Steve Kerr recovered from back surgery. So they didn't even have their great coach leading them. Luke Walton ended up leading them to a 39-4. Kerr led them, Walton led them to a 39-4 start. So that was impressive, just to get things started off with a coach that isn't your head coach and who's been leading you. But they had a net rating of 10.7, which was second in the league that year. An incredible roster of talent. You already had a great core with Curry and Thompson and Green, and then they went out and grabbed Kevin Durant, and it's a roster unlike we'll ever see again. Even comparing it to Boston, it has no comparison to what they were able to pull off with that. And with the new rules in place by Adam Silver, he's made sure that type of roster won't happen again. I actually picked another team from 2016. I don't know if this one will surprise you or not. They didn't make it past the semifinals, but they were a really good team. The 2016 San Antonio Spurs. So they went 67-15 in the regular season. They still ended up finishing second in the Western Conference because of the Warriors, but had a net rating of 11.3, which I think is got to be the highest of any team that never won a championship. They ended up sweeping the Grizzlies, but then went up against a Thunder team and lost in the semifinals 4-2. I just really like this team because of their point differential, how many, their record, and a team that, you really had Kawhi Leonard step up and be the number one on this team, where in years past he'd been behind guys like Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. Those guys took a back seat to him this year. They also added LaMarcus Aldridge on this team. It's just a really good roster, mix of old and new, and Kawhi really starting to hit his peak that year. A few years before that, I've got the 2013 Thunder. Now, this isn't the team that went to the finals the year before. This is the following season. They did not have James Harden on this roster, I believe. Yeah, so they'd gotten rid of him. But they went 60-22 and were first in their net rating. Again, another team that actually lost in the Western Conference semifinals. I believe injuries got them in this season, and it was kind of just a year for Memphis. They ended up going to the Western Conference Finals. Crazy year there, but they did have a net rating of 9.8, which was first in the league. Durant, Westbrook really coming into their own after a finals loss. Going back a few years before that, I have the 09 Lakers. Or 09 Cavs. Sorry. It was like 09 Lakers won it all. So the 2008-2009 Cleveland Cavaliers, this team went 66-16, finished first in the Eastern Conference. They had a net rating of even 10, ended up sweeping Detroit, sweeping Atlanta, and then for some reason fell short to this Dwight Howard-led Orlando Magic squad in the Eastern Conference Finals. This was a team, LeBron was really starting to hit his peak, but they had an interesting mix of, Ben Wallace, Delonte West. They still had Ilgauskas on this team, Wally Zerbiak, just a who's who of role players, basically. But LeBron, as opposed to the 07 team that went to the finals, this was just a better LeBron 2 years later. I did have the Kings, the 02 Kings, as a honorable mention. I just, I didn't want to put them on there because I felt like you probably would have them because of the whole referee issues. But I actually went with the 1997 Utah Jazz. What impresses me about this team and the following year team is that they went back-to-back Western Conference champions. In '97, they finished 64-18. This was just one of the great duos of all time with Karl Malone and John Stockton. They sweep the Clippers in the first round. They take the Lakers down in 5, so they basically owned LA for that year, and then was able to take down Hakeem Olajuwon, Houston Rockets team in 6, and then ultimately falling short to a Michael Jordan-led Chicago Bulls, which everyone in the 90s had issues then, outside of the 2 years where he went to baseball. So that was my 5. I kind of went a little more out on the limb there. I loved your list of teams. I try to keep mine a little bit more recent, just because I think teams nowadays would crush teams from old, and that
I agree, but I'm glad I went this way, because I just look at it from season to season. Like when you rank, I rank dominance. So who was the most dominant at their time?
Yeah.
I liked your LeBron team pick. I actually consider that team. I also could, but the reason I didn't is because I was between that and the LeBron team after he won the finals with the Cavs, the team that lost.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know, because that's essentially the same team that just won it the previous year. I wanted to put a LeBron team on there because he's had some bad luck in the finals.
You can almost put the 2011 Heat.
yeah, that team was a disaster in the finals. But yeah, I kind of wanted to. I didn't want to stick too recent with that. That's probably why I put the Rockets as an honorable mention, because I didn't want to have too many recent teams.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for NBA playoffs. Like this is when like the games actually, it's a totally different game from regular season NBA basketball. You really see the intensity ramp up into more of that you would call a college level intensity on the court, and you really see the stars shine and really go off in particular games where you could see guys put up 40, 50 points and have incredible performances that live in the history of the NBA. So we'll be watching that. We'll be checking in each week as the playoffs unfold. This is one of the longer playoffs. This is a postseason. This is a season in and of itself. So we'll be with you guys every step of the way for this this NBA playoff. But let's go into our Major League Baseball recap. Just go through the list of important and notable things that happened in the past week here. On last Tuesday, as we were recording this podcast, the New York Mets, Francisco Lindor reached his 1,500 career hit as the Mets beat the Marlins 10-5. That's no laughing matter there. That's a pretty good accomplishment for a guy who's been in the league for a while. Had some incredible seasons also with Cleveland. On Wednesday, a bizarre outcome happened in a White Sox game. Of course, the White Sox doing White Sox things. They end up losing a game after right fielder Mike Tauchman injured his hamstring. I can't even say this with a straight face.
I saw a replay of that, and I just
oh my gosh!
I didn't know if I was
Only
supposed to
in
laugh.
Chicago.
I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh or cry.
So he injures his hamstring running from third to home on the way to score the tying run, and that's how the game ended. They tagged him out, and they fell to the Guardians 3-2, and just a tough way to lose in a town that's just begging for some good news. And then on Thursday, the Angels' Joe Adele becoming the third player in franchise history to hit 2 home runs in a single inning, as the Halos took down the Rays 11-1 in a bout. The Angels have actually gotten off to a decent start. Mike Trout himself has gotten off to a pretty good start. But speaking of Mike Trout, on Saturday, the Angels and the Astros met in Houston, and on a fly ball, the Astros fan actually interfered with Mike Trout's attempt to catch a fly ball. He basically grabs the ball right out of Trout's glove. Not that much different from last year's postseason when
those Yankees fans would have been proud of that.
Yep. Except it is the Astros, and I think a lot of Yankees fans after this were asking, why wasn't this guy thrown out? As those Yankees fans were thrown out of that postseason matchup. The play was not reviewed and was called a foul ball, as he basically took the ball out of Trout's hands. Looked pretty in slow motion. It's like you can pretty clearly see he's grabbing it and he's taking it out of there. And then afterwards, he kind of feels sorry for what he did. But a great thing that Mike Trout did was go and seek him and his son out, and actually, had a nice little interaction with them. So that was pretty cool, and that's why Mike Trout is one of the best ambassadors of the game. Other notable things that happened on Saturday: the Cincinnati Reds' Elly De La Cruz smoked a grand slam on his bobblehead night, as the Reds won their second of a 3-game sweep of Pittsburgh. So a big series for them to be able to come out with a sweep. Also on Saturday, we had the Cubs get 14 runs on 15 hits in the final 3 innings to shut out the Dodgers 16-0. And this was despite 5 strong innings by the Dodgers starter, Roki Sasaki. So yeah, basically the bullpen imploded for LA here, and they never got the bats going. And it's actually kind of been a bit of a down part of the schedule right now for LA, as they got off to an 8-0 start, but now we're sitting at 11-6.
They're in their division too.
Right.
The NL West has been pretty dominant. Surprisingly, the Padres are sitting at 13-3, and the Giants are sitting at 11-4.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to last, but just something to take note of early in April.
Definitely. And then also the Diamondbacks, one of those teams in the NL West, they rallied from down 4-0 in the 9th inning to win 5-4 in a wild comeback. It was capped off by a Lourdes Gurriel Jr. sacrifice fly for the win. That was an impressive victory for them. And then on Sunday, the most notable news coming out of Sunday was that the NL Central leading Chicago Cubs actually lost their top arm, Justin Steele, to season-ending elbow surgery. So this is a big blow, and not unlike the Garrett Cole injury for New York. And I think this, if they really want to make that push, if they're looking at a World Series ring for this year to come out of the NL Central, they're going to need to go out and buy another arm. And they need to go out after someone pretty big. I think a Sandy Alcantara would be a guy that they could go for. He's kind of being wasted away in Miami. So I think going after him, get him on a good team. But that's basically everything that happened around the country in the world of baseball. But let's get into our Cardinals check-in. After their win Tuesday night when we recorded last week's podcast, they followed that up with a tough loss in Game 3 to lose the series to Pittsburgh. There was no score going into extra innings. They got a little aggressive in the top of the 10th, and when they tried to send Michael Ciani home on a pretty short base hit to left field, and a former Cardinal, Tommy Pham, actually gunned down Ciani at the plate. We did get a pinch hit RBI in the 12th by Jordan Walker. He's been having a really good season to start for us. But as soon as we got that first run in the 12th, we let go of the lead. And we blew the save. And I knew with the momentum signing with Pittsburgh that it wasn't going to go our way in the very next inning. We let it slip. So we lose that series. That's unfortunate because Pirates is really a series we needed to have. But we go back home after an off day, and we actually take 2 out of 3 against Philadelphia, against a team that took 2 out of 3 against LA. So I would say by the transitive property, we're doing pretty well. And so in Game 1, we were caught in another pitcher's duel. Great day for Andre Palante as he went 7 innings, no earned runs, 4 Ks. And after this, he currently sits at a 2.2 ERA. So he's been a breath of fresh air in this rotation. But we had another catcher come through as Pozo with the RBI double in the 5th. And Helsley was back to form after that rough outing his last time trying to get a save as he completes it in this one in Game 1. In Game 2, the Phillies struck early with Nick Castellanos' first inning double to send Harper and Schwarber home. Michaelis, our pitcher on the mound that day, recovered and went 5 innings with 6 Ks and only had 3 earned runs. We had 9 hits but didn't do much with them, and we fell short 4-1. But finally in Game 3, the Cards put the hurt on Philly with a 7-0 victory. Matthew Liberatore goes 6 innings, strikes out 7. Both Contreras and Walker hit a home run in the 4th and 8th, respectively. And then we also had Brendan Donovan extending his hit streak to 8 games. He's been really seeing the ball really well. We're keeping ourselves right there in the mix in the NL Central. It's always going to be a pretty open division to win. And now with the injury to Steele, that could open up the door a little bit more. But we're all within like 2 games of each other in the NL Central right now, so that's where it's looking at right now. We'll check back in next week, but we got huge news out of college football. Our first college football topic of the year, as it was recently reported that Tennessee Volunteers QB Nico Iamaleava was holding out over a new NIL contract. He actually missed the spring practice for Tennessee. It was reported that the coaches and teammates were surprised at this. And then I think the very next day, Coach Josh Heupel informed the team that the Volunteers were moving on from their QB as Nico was asking for $4 million in a new NIL deal. He was already slated to make $2.4 million this coming year. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault Tennessee. I think that was a ballsy move that they did. And I don't know all the information, but I'm going to say that was the right move for them to make if it was going to be that big of a distraction and that money. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're going to point blame to someone, I mean, the big picture, you blame the NCAA for just going from way too many regulations to no regulations when it comes to NIL and just athletes making a name for themselves. But I mean, yeah, I mean it's was between Nico and his dad were negotiating this deal. I thought they needed more money, and I just don't. I don't. It's obviously not good for college football. It's not good for college sports. I've heard North Carolina's with Bill Belichick's his likely destination. That's just a rumor. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate to see. And so there was some story today, or that was it Oregon's coach Dan Lanning somehow knew about this and he told Tennessee about it. Yeah. Credit to Coach Lanning for that because I love that. But yeah, I hope other athletes don't follow suit. But I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are coming down hard on Nico. I wanted to look at it from a different perspective. We've seen this from coaches for decades. Leveraging their impact on the school and the money that they bring in. Um, Now, do I love the fact that Tennessee stood their ground? Absolutely. I think this is why it's the reason it's making national news, and this has been happening a lot, and we just haven't heard about it. But the fact that Nico stood his ground as well. Usually, if this happened in the past, we would see the player just say, "Okay," and they'd be back on the team next year. They wouldn't get their deal, and they'd be back on the team. Um, Obviously, Nico looks at himself pretty highly and thinks he can add a lot of value to a team. He's got a lot of talent. He's a pretty hyped player coming out of high school, but yeah, I don't know that he deserved $4 million after the season he put up last year. And good on Tennessee for doing what they did, to keep the culture the way it is. And I think coming into this season, you wonder who their quarterback's going to be now. For a program that's on the up and up in the SEC, making the playoff last year was very impressive. So it remains to be seen how this impacts both Nico and Tennessee going forward, but it should be an interesting storyline going into the next season.
Yeah, there's one final thing on it. I can hear all arguments for this, or most arguments for this. The one argument I will not listen to, though, and I'm tired of hearing some people say, is that, he's just a kid. If you're making this much money, you're no longer considered a kid. Like people say, these college athletes are just kids for both football and basketball. It's not that. You can't claim them that way anymore when they're making this kind of money. No, they gotta have more responsibility.
And I completely support college athletes getting paid. I think they should be getting paid, but this is the problems you're going to start to run into. It's going to feel more like the professional setting, the professional game, the way just quit calling it NIL at this point. It's a contract. It's their contract.
And it could be worse. And if it keeps on this track, it might even be worse than professional sports, because with professional sports, you can demand a trade. Your team then refuses, but then they're like, okay, we'll trade you. And then they get something in return. Here, the school could just lose. Right. It could lose their best, potentially their best player if they're not paying without anything in return. Yeah.
And I don't blame Nico, and I don't blame Tennessee for the way they've handled this. I blame the NCAA for not having more rules and regulations put in place for this Wild West that we're with the NIL and the transfer portal. It's on them. There needs to be, a smaller group of people that are making the decisions and regulating this, and not so many hands in the cookie jar right now. So we'll be back next week with more NBA playoff content. We'll be back with an NFL draft preview as we get ready for that. That'll be a lot of fun getting into some of the draft picks. That'll do it for us. Love the Masters this weekend. It was so much fun. Riveting golf. I've never been so locked in to a golf tournament before. I'm Cage Kiplinger. This is Logan Hubert, and we are the K&L Sports Huddle.